Journalism's future will depend on the people who choose to enter it, stay in it, and lead it. But for too many aspiring journalists, the path to the first job, next opportunity, or leadership role feels confusing, discouraging, and far too dependent on who they know. That may be why Poynter has launched a new weekly advice series called Ask the Recruiter, offering real-world guidance for navigating a journalism career. This series will also appear on the Media Job Orb, a platform we at E&P host in partnership with Poynter, the local media association and America's newspapers. And greetings, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. This, of course, is our weekly vodcast series, E&P Reports, that explores the people, ideas, that are shaping the future of news publishing. My guest today may be the perfect person to lead that conversation about finding the right gig. Cristina Silva. Cristina, I'm going to call you Christy because that's what I see on your screen. You're the one that's going to be authoring the Ask the Recruiter series. And boy, it's just so great to have you on the program today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
I think I recognize the city. You're in Boston. Am I correct?
That's right. This is my office with pretty nice windows.
You are the managing editor for operations and standards at the Boston Globe, a former managing editor for national news at USA Today. You've won a few awards. I did a little stalking. You're a newsroom leader who has hired reporters, built teams, and overseen some of the nation's most ambitious reporting projects. So are you excited about being the candidate for this series?
I'm very excited. I grew up reading Joe Grimm. He was really pivotal for me in my 20s. He was the previous Ask the Recruiter columnist for Poynter. He retired from doing that in 2014. And so I do a lot of mentoring. I talk to a lot of people every week about their career anxiety and their questions. And I just reached out to Poynter and I said, hey, we should bring this back. I think a lot of people right now are very worried about what's happening in journalism, and they want to know how they can best position themselves and do this work we all love.
Coming up, we'll chat about what hiring editors really look for, the mistakes that can cost talented candidates a job, and how to stand out without the right connections. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes two parts, reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
The Center for Integrity in News Reporting, CFINR, is on a mission to rebuild public trust in journalism, one newsroom and one classroom at a time. We champion the effort to have news organizations and journalism schools create and prominently display their own clear, concise statements of core journalistic values. Learn more by visiting the Center for Integrity and News Reporting site at cfinr.org.
All right, Christy, let's get to work here. Your first column with that unforgettable story of arriving late, sweaty, and covered in car grease for an internship interview. That was an amazing column. Why did you begin there? Let us know.
I think one of the things that has been really powerful for me as I've grown in my career is realizing that everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has moments in their careers where they wish they could have done something differently, or everyone, feels frustrated sometimes that something doesn't work out. And I've been juggling these moments my whole career, right? And it started from when I was very young, when I thought that I was doing everything I could possibly do, to have so many internships when I was in college and to be so dedicated to this profession. And even then, something was beyond my control. My crappy car broke down and, I was 40 minutes late to the interview and it cost me the internship. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that it doesn't matter how far along we are in our careers. We all just have to keep pushing ahead and striving. And, it's a numbers game. Like, you have to talk to a lot of people. You have to apply to a lot of jobs. Very few of us, I think, have everything work out very easily.
All right. So you've been on both sides of this. You've been rejected and you've hired journalists. What are the people who are seeking jobs most probably misunderstand most about how an actual newsroom really works today?
I think the biggest thing I see is a lot of us are very humble. We are not into marketing, right? We always say that we're not the story. We just do the work and we hope that someone notices it. And that doesn't work for the job application process. You have to sell yourself. And so I always tell people, what is your elevator pitch? How will you get someone's attention in just 1, 2, 3 minutes? And whether that's asking your boss for a raise, asking your boss for a promotion, applying for a job, trying to network with someone, you usually only have a few minutes to distill your career, explain why you're unique, why you're special, what you're bringing to the table. And I don't think a lot of people are prepared to do that.
You write that small differences can determine who gets the gig. What are the small things that genuinely separate a candidate from the pack, in your opinion?
Um, Sometimes it can be really hard when we see someone come to a job interview and they are rambling. Like if we only have a 30-minute calendar invite and we ask you the first question and you take 10 minutes to answer that question. Well, you just spent a third of the interview kind of rambling and didn't give us time to ask you more questions. And so I do encourage people again to be succinct and prepared. The other thing I think is a lot of us are really anxious people in journalism. It's hard to be judged. But when you look so anxious and kind of freak out in the job interview, it can raise questions about are you poised enough or confident enough to go to a journalism gaggle and like stalk a governor or a mayor and demand that they answer your questions. And so I tell people like even if you are a very shy or introverted person, when you come to that job interview, put on your game face, show your best self, show that you can deal with stressful situations. And then the other thing I would say is just be very specific about what you did. A lot of people will just say vaguely, oh, I was a City Hall reporter or I was a breaking news editor. That's not enough detail. Tell me very specifically, what you did in that job that makes you stand out against all the other people who have similar titles.
Let's talk about the written part of this. What makes an application, resume, cover letter, or email make that candidate stand out? What makes it a stronger message to that recruiter?
I think it's really great when you show that you've read the publication that you're applying for. So when you can say something like, I really love the story you guys did last week. And then also for bonus points, showing how you would seamlessly fit into the team. So in other words, I love the story you all did last week. Here's how I would have advanced it. If I was on the team this week, here's how I would move that story forward. I always encourage people to come to interviews with story ideas or to slip that into the thank you note or to slip that into your cover letter. You want to show that you intimately understand the language of that newsroom as much as possible in that community.
You say that someone who has introduced themselves to the editor before applying has a much stronger position. For younger journalists or people who are just trying to get into this industry, how important is networking and what does it look like in today's, world of Zoom and everything else?
The networking is everything. Journalism is a place where people feel more comfortable hiring people they know or hiring people their friends know, like many industries. I kind of joke sometimes that the portal is the black hole. I'm not saying you shouldn't apply for a job from a portal. Obviously, many people do find success in that method, but often when we put up a job posting, we'll get anywhere from 70 to 500 applicants, if not more. And so it is very difficult to stand out in that way. Some editors aren't great about checking the portal or checking it so thoroughly. So anything you can do to get on their radar would be great. LinkedIn can be really useful. Email, I say don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just chase one editor, chase many people who work there. There's many entry points into any newsroom. Ask around, see if anyone knows somebody who can make that introduction. It's just a more a direct way of getting your name out there and just networking is a full-time job in some ways, whether it's internally and externally, right? Where you work somewhere, get to know people in your newsroom, and then also get to know people in the newsroom where you want to work.
How important is that traditional cover letter? I mean, and what is your advice on using AI to craft it? I mean, besides just keep out the damn M dashes. I mean, where is your head at on that? Do you want to make it look more human? Do you want to show you're leaning into AI? Where does this all work into the equation?
I'm not using AI in any of my journalism writing and or editing. And the reason is because I just don't think that it's a better writer than I am. Like I have spent decades, right, trying to be a distinctive writer and use my voice, and so I like my writing style. I worry that if you are using AI for your cover letter, that you might not stand out, that it might be flat. One thing that you could do perhaps is write what you wanted to write and put it through a chat just to catch any spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes. The way a lot of us have been using Grammarly for a long time or spell check. Or you could ask it to say if there's anything that you wrote that maybe, wasn't sensitive or that didn't match with the job posting. I think that might be allowed, and we're all still discovering this together, but I wouldn't use AI to directly write it from scratch because I think that will be quite noticeable to many editors and they might
Yeah.
fuck out your application. The cover letter is important for a lot of people. I would say keep it short. To me, that's actually I think 5 to 6 short paragraphs at most is really helpful. Everything you do just needs to be to the point because again, thinking about that these hiring managers are incredibly busy and they have to do their full-time jobs as well as hire. And so I think you just kind of want to say, this is why I want the job, this is why I deserve the job, and this is what I can do for you. That's really what most hiring editors want to hear. What are you going to do to make my life easier? Why should I give you this job so I never have to worry about this job again?
Um, Newsrooms say they want diversity, new skills, fresh perspectives, what have you. Are hiring practices today actually catching up to that philosophy, in your opinion?
Absolutely not. This has been a huge problem in our industry. Historically, we have not represented diverse communities. I think it's a bigger problem because we know that younger people in the United States are more diverse than ever. And we also know that in many cities, for example, the Latino population is booming. Here in Massachusetts, where I'm based, the Latino population has doubled over the past decade, and that's not reflected in most of the newsrooms here. There were surveys in the past, like by ASNI and other groups that would look at diversity in newsrooms, and those surveys always showed that newsrooms did not reflect the diversity of their community or nationally, and those surveys no longer exist, which makes me worried that we might be backsliding. So anyhow, I think it's incredibly important to have language skills in newsrooms. I think it's important to have diversity across class, education background, people who grew up in rural communities, people who grew up in urban communities, people from different religious perspectives, people from different ethnicities and race, gender, generational diversity. We're losing readers as an industry, and we're not reaching younger audiences. And how are we going to do that if our newsrooms don't reflect the people we need to reach?
When you're hiring someone, do you kind of stalk them and take a look at what they're posting on LinkedIn and all the other channels out there and see their social media presence? Does that influence you? And should someone who is looking to get into a new gig police themselves first and make sure they look good on the web?
I do stalk people and I do stalk their social media. I would say actually, I think now that X is not as popular with journalists, it's harder for recruiters to see how people are putting themselves out there because they're not doing it in such a public platform, for better or worse. But back in the day when a lot of journalists were sharing things on X or Twitter, for example, there was a candidate who was like complaining a lot about their newsroom on social media, and that gave me pause. Nobody, that doesn't seem very respectful to your colleagues, and I wasn't sure I wanted to hire someone who did something like that. Or if someone is like posting pictures of them drinking at a frat party or cursing or sharing their public opinions about politics, that would all give me pause.
You're going to be episode 345 of this 6-year journey, this vodcast series, but I'm going to date stamp it now because people may be referencing this in months and years to come. But it's now the end of July 2026. You have resurrected, thanks to you reaching out to Poynter, Ask the Recruiter. So we've got the first column down while we're doing this interview. So this is our last question. Where are we going to go with this thing? What topics can we expect? What do you see Ask the Recruiter becoming, and as you bring it back to life and we promote it through all the channels?
Hope is that we can use this as a forum to discuss how the journalism industry is changing and where it needs to go and how we can support each other as journalists. I think there are so many talented people in the industry who care so deeply about making journalism stronger, more ethical, more inclusive, and I hope we can all work together to find those solutions and make sure that the right people are getting the jobs they need to get, and that our newsrooms are really doing a good job of finding these candidates.
My guest today has been Cristina Silva, managing editor of Standards and Operations of the Boston Globe and the author of the resurrected, if I use that word again, series Ask the Recruiter, being put online by Poynter and featured on the media job board. Christy, thanks for your time. Looking forward to seeing those articles, and keep up the good fight.
Thank you.